Hello everyone, my name is John. Welcome back to the channel. I want to first thank you for the love and for the support for you guys watching these videos. I really appreciate it. Now, we talk about a lot of things on this channel just cuts against the grain of just logic and common sense. And today is no different. We're going to be talking about chemicals that, get this, watch this, that is, in order to handle it, you are advised to wear protective gear. But when this chemical is used in a food product for consumption, it's considered perfectly safe. It makes no sense at all. Stay tuned, we're going to talk about it. Let's get into it. Every morning, millions of American families eat the same chemical found in yoga mats and foam rubber. Azodicarbonamide is used as a foaming agent in plastics and also as a dough conditioner in some U.S. breads. Different uses, same chemical. Europe banned this industrial chemical from food over 20 years ago. But in America, the FDA says it's perfectly safe for your kids to eat every single day. This isn't just about one chemical. It's about a regulatory system that treats American families as test subjects for industrial additives that other countries refuse to allow near their food supply. While European children eat bread made with traditional methods, American children consume chemicals designed for manufacturing foam products. Here's how absurd this situation has become. If you work in a factory handling azodicarbonamide in manufacturing, you're required to wear protective gear because the chemical can trigger asthma and respiratory problems. NIOSH and CDC reports have documented cases of respiratory sensitization among workers exposed to azodicarbonamide in occupational settings. But if you're a parent feeding your child a peanut butter sandwich made with bread containing the same chemical, the government says that's completely safe. The same substance that requires industrial safety protocols when workers handle it in manufacturing facilities gets mixed into the bread that ends up in school lunch boxes across America. We protect factory workers from this chemical while feeding it to our children. In the early 2000s, European food safety officials looked at the research on azodicarbonamide and reached a conclusion that should concern American parents. This chemical was too risky to allow in food. The European Union formally suspended its use as a food additive through Commission Directive 2004/1/EC on January 6, 2004. European assessments raised concerns that azodicarbonamide can form semicarbazide under some conditions, and that certain breakdown products have toxicology signals in laboratory studies. The European response was clear: get this out of the food supply. Meanwhile, American regulators looked at the exact same evidence and decided it was fine to keep feeding this chemical to 330 million people. More than 20 years later, we're still the chemistry experiment that Europe refused to become. The FDA's position on azodicarbonamide is breathtakingly reckless when you understand what they're actually saying. They acknowledge concerns about breakdown products. They know about respiratory problems in workers, but they insist the levels in bread are acceptable, permitting up to 45 parts per million in flour as a dough conditioning agent. Acceptable to whom? Not to European parents, who demanded their governments protect their children from unnecessary chemical exposure. Not to countries like Australia and Singapore, which prohibit or strictly limit the additive and treat unauthorized use as a serious regulatory offense. Only acceptable to an agency that consistently prioritizes food industry convenience over public health. When pressed about using industrial chemicals in food, baking companies deploy the same cynical arguments every time. It's approved by the FDA and consumers expect this texture. Let's decode what they're really saying. FDA approved means a chemical that Europe banned over 20 years ago as too dangerous for food use. Consumer expectations means we've trained people to expect bread with a particular texture because it's cheaper to use industrial chemicals than traditional baking methods. The American Bakers Association actually argued against removing azodicarbonamide because it would impose economic burdens on their members. They're literally arguing that their profit margins are more important than removing industrial foam chemicals from your family's diet. Here's what's truly infuriating about this situation. Multinational companies prove every day that azodicarbonamide isn't necessary. In Europe, major food chains sell bread that tastes great, looks appealing, and sells successfully are all without this chemical. The same companies operating in both regions demonstrate that traditional baking methods work perfectly well. But in America, these companies continue using azodicarbonamide because our regulators let them get away with it. They have two recipes, one for countries that protect their citizens and one for countries that treat their citizens as chemical test subjects. When Subway removed azodicarbonamide from their bread in 2014 after consumer pressure, they proved the chemical wasn't necessary. It was just convenient. Other chains followed suit, demonstrating that alternatives exist when companies face accountability. Now, the most shocking thing about your morning toast isn't the chemical that's in it, it's how the government treat the people who handle it. If you work in a factory that handles azodicarbonamide, it's painful even saying it. But if you handle this chemical, you have to wear protective gear. Why do you wear protective gear? Because it's federal law. This chemical is known as a respiratory sensitizer that triggers asthma. The CDC and the NIOSH has documented these risks for decades, so it's nothing new. But yet, the moment that this chemical is mixed into bread dough, the FDA considers it perfectly safe for you to put in your kid's lunchbox. So we have a regulatory system that protects the people who are handling this chemical to make the bread, but no protection for the kids who are eating them in their school lunchboxes in a sandwich or in the school lunch hall for lunch. No protection for them. It defies all logic. In February 2014, the Environmental Working Group published a shocking report. They found azodicarbonamide in nearly 500 food products from 130 brands. Wonder Bread, Sara Lee, Little Debbie, Kroger store brands, most hamburger buns and sandwich rolls, all delivering daily doses of this industrial chemical to kitchen tables across the country. The most disturbing part, most parents have no idea. The chemical appears on ingredient labels as azodicarbonamide, technical terminology that gives no hint you're feeding your family the same substance used to manufacture foam products. Children are getting the highest exposures because bread makes up such a large part of their diets, and their developing bodies are most vulnerable to chemical effects that might not show up for years or decades. The azodicarbonamide situation exposes everything wrong with American food regulation. European agencies ask, why should we allow this chemical in food when we don't absolutely need it and there are potential risks? American agencies ask, why should we ban this chemical unless we can prove it's definitely causing harm right now? One approach protects families from unnecessary risk. The other approach uses families as test subjects until the damage becomes undeniable. American regulators chose the latter approach. When other developed countries ban a chemical as too dangerous for food, continuing to allow it becomes an active choice to expose your population to risks other nations refuse to accept. Food companies continue using azodicarbonamide for one simple reason: it's cheaper and more convenient than alternatives. The chemical allows them to mass-produce bread faster, with more consistent appearance, using less skilled labor and shorter fermentation times. Switching to safer alternatives would require retooling production lines, retraining workers, and accepting slightly higher costs, expenses that cut into profit margins. The real insult? They've trained American consumers to prefer the texture that azodicarbonamide creates, then claim they're just giving customers what they want. The good news is that you don't have to wait for the FDA to change its approach. Every time you read an ingredient label and reject products containing azodicarbonamide, you're voting against this system with your wallet. Companies have proven they can make bread without this chemical. They do it in Europe every day. When Subway faced public backlash in 2014, they announced removal. It turns out that when customers threaten to stop buying products containing industrial chemicals, companies suddenly discover that alternatives exist after all. What's happening with azodicarbonamide should make every parent question our regulatory priorities. We're feeding our children chemicals that other countries banned as too dangerous, not because we have to, but because our regulatory system values corporate convenience over child safety. This isn't a complex scientific debate about trace contaminants or unavoidable risks. This is a completely unnecessary chemical that serves no purpose except making industrial bread production more profitable while exposing millions of families to a substance other developed nations decided to remove from food. Azodicarbonamide is used in foam products like yoga mats, and it's also in your family's bread, while European families eat the same products made safely without this industrial chemical. Your children deserve the same protection that European children receive, but they won't get it until enough American parents understand what's actually in their food and demand better. When the same chemical that requires safety equipment in factories gets mixed into sandwich bread for school lunches, the regulatory system has failed. The solution isn't waiting for regulators to change, it's making informed choices that prioritize your family's health over corporate profits. So there you have it, folks. Thank you for watching this video. Like the video, subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to check out the MAP 30 challenge. The link for that is in the description. You can go to the page, you can read all the information to see if it's something for you. If you're trying to drop a few pounds or get your health back in order, it's the perfect program for you. So check that out. The link is in the description. We will see you in the next video. Bye for now.